Hello and welcome to Paint Yourself into the Picture, healing conversations to help us create the best picture of our lives. I'm your host, Reba, and I'm so glad you're here. My guest today, Robert Schwartz, is a hypnotist specializing in between lives soul regressions, in which you can learn about the life plan you yourself created before you were born. He's the author of 2 books, Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift, in which he shares the true stories of people who planned great challenges before they were born and why they planned those experiences. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Reba. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. And of course, I'm very curious about what you do. And I think all our viewers want to know how you came to do the work you do now.
Well, Reba, for me, the path to writing Your Soul's Plan and then later the second book, Your Soul's Gift, started in Chicago back in 2003. And at that time, I was self-employed as a marketing and communications consultant, basically doing different forms of corporate writing. I didn't enjoy this work at all. And so in my search for deeper meaning, I did something I had never done before. On May 7 of 2003, I had a session with a psychic medium. She introduced me to the concept of spirit guides. I had never even heard that term before. She explained that a guide is a highly evolved, non-physical being with whom we plan our lives before we're born, and who then guides us through our lives after we come into body. Through this particular medium, I was actually able to talk with my guides. Now, they said a lot of amazing things to me that day, one of which was, they said, you planned your life, including your biggest challenges, before you were born. And I'll tell you, I just shook my head and I said, why in the world did I do that? But they had an answer to that question. They said, you did this for purposes of spiritual growth. And they knew what my challenges had been without me even telling them. And then they were able to explain in considerable detail why I had wanted those experiences before coming into body. For me, this conversation produced a deep healing. I realized I was onto a concept that could bring a similar kind of healing to other people. And that was when I first started to think about writing a book on the subject. And I ended up leaving the corporate world, devoted the next 3 years of my life to writing Your Soul's Plan, and now have a completely different and really much more fulfilling and meaningful life.
That's amazing. And it kind of was, in a way, a little bit recent. I mean, it's all, in the 2000s and a complete turnaround. So the information you received must have been really transformative, obviously. And now you do that for other people. How hard was it, first of all, to transition and to trust this information that you were receiving?
You know, Reba, there was somewhat of a battle between mind and heart. Mind saying, this isn't logical, it doesn't make sense. But as you know, intuition is a very powerful thing. And at an intuitive level, I could feel the truth in what the guides had said. I could feel the truth in this concept of pre-birth planning. And in the end, I just decided to trust my intuition.
Can you share some stories of people you've worked with? I mean, you're free to share your own story if you wish about kind of the type of challenges that you planned, or share, in confidence, of course, somebody else's story of the type of challenges that they planned for a particular lifetime.
Well, to me, one of the most compelling stories is the story in Your Soul's Plan of a woman named Christina, who was actually blown up in a bomb explosion. Someone planted a bomb at her work site. It was actually planted in the mailbox of her employer. And when she inserted her hand to pick up her boss's mail, this pipe bomb detonated. She was so badly injured that she was hospitalized for the next couple of years, had actually 10 surgeries during that period. But one day while she was lying in her hospital bed in quite a bit of pain, she heard a voice inside her head, and it was one of her spirit guides talking to her. The guide said to her, you planned this. And of course she said, well, why in the world did I do that? And the guide had an answer. He said, you wanted to have an incarnation as a gifted healer. Well, this is in fact exactly what happened. When she recovered from the 10 surgeries, she went on to get a PhD in speech language pathology, set up a private clinical practice, and at this point in her life has brought healing to thousands of people. And the reason she's such an effective healer is because she's healed herself first from the devastating effects of that bomb explosion. Now, when I interviewed her for Your Soul's Plan, she talked about how she had not only forgiven the person who planted the bomb, but had in fact come to a place of deep gratitude for that person. So you can imagine she could have been angry for the rest of her life. But because she worked with what her guide told her that day in the hospital and really came into a deep understanding and acceptance of her pre-birth plan, she was able to get to that place of forgiveness and then later on to that place of gratitude. Now, her story is unusual because it's a bomb explosion, but she herself is not unusual. If she can get to that place of forgiveness and gratitude after what she went through, then all of us can do it in regard to our life challenges.
Indeed. And how was she able to do it? Was it through speaking with her spirit guides that she received the insight into, 'cause a lot of people want to forgive. They know that it would be good to forgive, but they still aren't sure, how do I forgive? Because it's still the challenges that they face are still eating at them in some way, shape, or form. The thoughts, cycling, and so on.
Well, certainly it wasn't something that happened overnight, and it didn't happen just as a result of the first conversation with her guide. She had many conversations with her guides over a period of years in which they talked again and again about how this bomb explosion was part of her life plan, that it was eventually going to lead to very positive things. So she was angry at first, as anybody would be, but she kept talking with them. She kept internalizing this concept of the pre-birth plan at a deeper and deeper and deeper level. And so over a period of years, it had the effect of dissolving the anger that she felt toward the bomber. And then, of course, when she set up her private clinical practice in speech pathology and realized she had a skill healing people that was a direct result of the bomb explosion, that's when she could really get to that place of deep forgiveness and actually gratitude for the bomb explosion, because it allowed her to do this kind of healing with her clients.
So can you just to go just a tiny bit deeper here, can you kind of make the connection for us between healing from an explosion, which was probably burns and other types of injury, to healing using speech pathology, speech, whatever, therapy? What were the healing skills that she gained that she could translate to her career?
Well, quite specifically, she cultivated an ability to go into a client's brain energetically, meaning non-invasively, and restore language processing capability in people who had lost that due to stroke or accident. So this particular skill was a direct result of having been in that bomb explosion. And once she saw that this healing gift was hers as a result of having gone through that, that's when the gratitude was really able to develop.
That's fascinating. That's a fascinating connection there. So that brings me to actually ask you personally. You have a healing gift as well, which you do through your sessions, your between lives sessions, and your past life regression sessions. How did you gain those skills? I mean, it's one thing to experience speaking with a guide and getting some messages and some aha moments, clarity. It's another thing to be able to do that for others. How did that translate for you?
Well, what happened in my case is that when Your Soul's Plan first came out, which was in early 2007, people started writing to me from all over the world. And they said, I want you to tell me what my life plan is. And for a period of years, I responded to each of those emails the same way. I said, I'm not a medium or a channel, which is how I research people's pre-birth plans in the book. You should work with one of the mediums or channels in the book. They can tell you what your life plan is. But then I learned of the work of Michael Newton, who some of your viewers may know is a hypnotist who back in the 90s pioneered a field called life between lives regression. And I realized that this was a way that I could help people in a very direct manner to learn about their life plan. They wouldn't have to ask a medium or a channel. They could actually access the information on their own. So I took the training to become a life between lives practitioner. I call it a between lives soul regression, but it's the same thing. And in this type of session, the client speaks with a group of beings known as the Council of Elders. These are the very wise, loving, and highly evolved beings who oversee the cycle of reincarnation on Earth. They know everything about the client, not just the current life plan, but all the past lives they've already lived. Wow. So when someone gets in front of the Council of Elders, They can ask literally any question on any subject, and if it's for their highest good to know the answer, the council will answer it. So it's really a transformative experience in which somebody can find out why they chose their parents, their children, why they planned the specific challenges that they planned, how they're doing in fulfilling the life plan, how they can do better in fulfilling the life plan. It's really a transformative type of experience.
I can see how it must be. And one of the important psychological or just attitudinal shifts that it gives clients, I can see, is this idea is, you're not a victim, that this is happening for you, not to you. And I think a lot of people probably go in with the why is this happening to me idea, and then they understand that it's happening for them. So yeah, please address that if you wish.
Well, I was just going to echo what you said. Really, the greatest single benefit of the between lives regression and coming into a knowledge of your pre-birth plan is the understanding that you are not a victim. I think there's a very natural human tendency when something quote unquote bad happens to feel that God or the universe is punishing you, or that it's your karma, and to not see any deeper meaning in it. But when you come into the awareness that you are the powerful soul who planned your life, including your biggest challenges, that has the effect of pulling someone out of victim consciousness.
Yeah.
Victim consciousness, as I understand it, is actually the single lowest vibratory state or frequency that a person can be at. And it tends to be self-perpetuating because when you vibrate at the frequency of victim, you're energetically stating to the universe that you are a victim. Well, whatever energetic statement you make to the universe always responds in the same way. It says, yes, you are. So if you state energetically to the universe that you're a victim, the universe says, yes, you are, and it brings you more experiences that seem to confirm to you that you are, in fact, a victim. But when you come into the awareness that you are the powerful soul who planned your life and your challenges, that awareness alone, even if you don't know why you planned them, is a tremendous increase in vibration. That increase in vibration means that you're no longer stating energetically that you're a victim. And so then those sorts of experiences don't tend to continue coming into your life.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I also am a teacher of manifesting, so that is a very great explanation of manifesting right there, because what we focus on is what we focus on expands. So if we're focusing on how things don't work out for us, that is what comes to be, and the opposite, thankfully, is true as well. So can you share another story or two about the soul regressions that you've done with people, and also share what you love most about what you do?
Well, I'll take your second question first. I think the thing that I enjoy most about doing the between lives soul regressions is that when somebody comes out of the trance state after they've spoken to the council of elders, one of the most common comments they make is how overwhelmed they were by the feeling of unconditional love and total non-judgment that the council of elders had for them. For many people, they've never experienced anything even remotely like that while in body in the current incarnation. And so to talk with a group of beings who you can sense have nothing but pure unconditional love for you and total non-judgment, no matter what you may have done in your life, that is a deeply healing and also, I think, deeply affirming kind of experience. It's something that helps people to cultivate greater self-love, and it brings them into remembrance of who they are as the soul who planned the life before they came into body.
Yeah.
In terms of sharing a story, there's one person, for example, who I work with who planned the life challenge of AIDS and was able to come into an understanding that, he was not a victim of having experienced AIDS. He was, in fact, the soul who planned this very difficult, very challenging experience. And I think it produced a shift in identity for him, because previously he had seen himself as a victim of this experience and saw no good, no positive coming from it. But when he came into the awareness that he had planned it and understood that he had done that in part to be of service to others so that they could put judgment aside and feel compassion for him, I think it gave him much greater self-esteem, much greater self-respect. He understood that he had taken on a challenge that very few souls would dare to take on, And this produced a radical shift in self-identity for him.
That's an incredible story, because I think that would be a big challenge for anyone.
Yeah, sure.
Let me switch. So congratulations and thank you for the work that you do. It's incredible to be able to make a shift like that with someone who's dealing with a challenge like that, because it's very hard to see people and say, well, this is happening for you, but to actually give them that experience where you're not just sort of, it's like, what the heck do you mean this is happening for me? It's one thing to say it, but to have the experience is so powerful.
Exactly.
So what was the greatest challenge for you in taking on this new role for yourself and bringing others to have this experience with the Council of Elders?
For me, this has been deeply gratifying work. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, I used to be in the corporate sector.
Right.
And Reba, when I was doing that kind of work, I didn't feel that there was anything unique about what I was doing, or that it was an expression of who I truly am as a soul. I always had the feeling that if I fell off the face of the earth, they would just plug somebody else into my role and carry right along. But this kind of work that I'm doing now, where I bring people in front of the Council of Elders and they come into an awareness of their life plan, this feels to me like it's a truly unique expression of who I am as a soul. And that is a deeply gratifying, deeply fulfilling experience for me.
I would imagine so. And what was the greatest challenge that you faced in making or was it just sort of smooth sailing? You found your right path and never looked backwards, or what were the greatest challenges and kind of setting up shop as like, now I do this, and I'm sure everybody around you was like, what? What happened?
Well, that's just it. I mean, there was a life that I had before my own spiritual awakening, and then the life that I have since then. And the people that I knew pre-awakening, so to speak, the family and friends, some of them understand what I'm doing and are very much interested in it, but some of them don't understand it at all, and it just seems very far out to them. And so there's a challenge in maintaining those old relationships and sharing what I do now, but not sharing it in a way in which they're going to feel that I'm trying to persuade them to believe what I believe, and not sharing it in a way that's going to spook them, for lack of a better word. So I really let other people be my guide and tell me how much do they want to know. And to the extent that they're interested, I'll share it with them, but I don't want to push it on anybody.
Understood. I want to know, what is the one suggestion that you would make to help our viewers understand their own challenges better?
The one suggestion I would make would be try to get some insight into why you would have planned the challenge. And there are a number of different ways that you can do that. Certainly, given the work that I do now, I think the most profound way is to do a between lives soul regression, talk to the Council of Elders, and find out quite specifically why you planned your challenges. But there are other ways to get access to that kind of information. You can work with mediums or channels, which is how I researched Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift. Numerology provides a lot of insight. Astrology, any good astrologer can tell someone quite a bit about their life plan. Automatic writing, which is a way for people to channel information themselves. They can Google the term. That can give you a lot of information about your life plan. And there's a technique that I've used and some people I know have used that works quite well, in which before you go to bed at night, speak out loud to your soul and pose one question. So it could be, what is my life plan, or why did I plan challenge A or challenge B? And then ask your soul to send you a dream that contains an answer to the question. Also ask, and this is very important, to be awakened when the dream ends. Otherwise, most people won't remember it in the morning. And then keep either pen and paper or digital recorder next to the bed. When you wake up, write it down or describe the dream into the recorder. This technique really works. It may not work the first time or even the second or third time you try it, but stick with it as long as you don't get frustrated. If you do get frustrated, put it aside for a couple of weeks and then come back to it. Your soul will respond to that request, and you will get a dream that answers the question. Then you'll have to interpret the dream, which is another matter altogether. But your soul will answer your question, whatever it might be.
It's wonderful. I think it all can be summed up with the words knowledge is power. And just knowing more is we get to know ourselves more deeply. We get to accept ourselves more deeply. We get to act on that knowledge. And that is completely transformative. Is there any last words of wisdom you'd like to share with the viewers?
I think I'd just like to remind your viewers who they really are. I think when we come into body, we forget our eternal identity as a soul, and we start to identify with a lot of limitations and false beliefs and have a much smaller sense of who we really are. So I would say to your viewers, remember that you are the very, very courageous soul who planned the life that you're now living, who planned the challenges that you have taken on in this lifetime. Reba, as I understand it, Earth is not literally the most difficult place to have a lifetime, but it is one of the most difficult. Only the most courageous of souls choose to incarnate here. And I would ask your viewers to remember that you are among that group of the most courageous souls in our universe.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That is a beautiful message. I know a lot of people watching are going to say, I want to get one of these sessions. By the way, I wanted to ask you quickly, I was reading about your services. You spend a long time with people. You spend like 3 and 4 hours with people in your sessions.
That's the between life soul regression is usually about a 3.5-hour session. The reason it's that long is that we go through a number of physical and mental relaxation exercises. And then the client actually goes very briefly into a past life, usually one that had a big impact on the plan for the current lifetime. They leave the past life, transition back to the other side. At that point, they're greeted by a spirit guide. They ask the guide some questions about why they were shown that past life. And then the guide escorts them to the council of others. But to get to the council, you have to be in a very deep trance state, theta state. And to get there requires quite a bit of time. So that's why it's usually 3.5 hours.
So there's the different places. The one place where they're experiencing the past life regression is one area. And then going to the other side to talk to the guides, as you said, to the other side, that's a different area.
Yeah, all of this happens in the same session though. So it's as though their consciousness is in 2 places at once. Part of their consciousness stays in the room where they're doing the session, and they're fully aware at all times of who they are, where they are, who I am, and what we're doing together. But there's another part of their consciousness that goes into the past life and then back home to the non-physical realm to talk to the council.
Wow. Wow. That sounds really interesting. So why don't you share how people can find out more about you and access you if they'd like to do a session?
Sure. The website is yoursoulsplan.com. They can also write to me at rob.schwartz, SCHWARTZ, at yoursoulsplan.com. The 2 books, again, are Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift. And they can read large excerpts from the books for free on the books page at yoursoulsplan.com.
Beautiful. I will be going there to get my free excerpts right away. Thank you so much for being with us on Paint Yourself into the Picture, Rob. It's been a great pleasure meeting you and learning more about what you do. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure too.
And thank you to our wonderful viewers. I'm so glad you were here with us today. Let's stay in touch. My websites are rebalinker.com and A2Zhealingspace.com. Thanks in advance for your subscribes, likes, shares, and comments here on the video. And join us again soon for more healing conversations. Until then, remember that every obstacle is a doorway. We just need to look for the opening. Many blessings.